Call the meeting to order. You'll all rise. Our invocation will be given by Pastor John Ramos. Stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow your heads with me. Father God, as we come before you, Lord, we ask for wisdom and guidance upon decisions to be made, organization, leadership, relationship. Lord, I pray that you will give this board and all those in attendance wisdom beyond their years to govern what needs to be governed and to discuss what needs to be discussed. Pray for their families, that you would bless them, Lord, relationships to be made in one. We thank you, and I just thank you, Lord, personally for the love and the grace and mercy found in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It's in his powerful name we pray. Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a motion to call for an executive session to be held on April 5th, 2021 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second for discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Committee and legislative report. Supervisor Lingenfeld.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. With regard to our water bills, we're following. Representative Cobb is still hard at work on her RMA, her INA, and her fourth priority water bills, looking to identify options, strategize if those can actually be moved forward this session or if she needs to wait till next session. So we're still waiting to see exactly what she's going to do. And I'll report back on that as soon as I can. We expect the Bureau of Reclamation to publish in the Federal Register in the next few weeks, opening for comments on the GSC farm transfer. Once that happens, I anticipate that working closely with staff, we'll need to, as a board, discuss how we want to proceed, possibly an executive session for that. Also, Representative Biasucci's House Bill 2077, which is the State Lake Improvement Fund that passed the House. It's been referred to the Senate Appropriations, and they have a hearing tomorrow. We'll continue to monitor that bill as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to remind the board that no bill is dead in the legislature until sine die. Everything is still in play. So don't think things are dead, and don't think good things are dead and bad things are dead, because they're not dead yet. Thank you.
Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I attended the Myers walkthrough last week, and then the new Mojave County Superior Court building. We did the ribbon cutting on that. I attended a town hall in Dolan Springs with Sheriff Schuster, and then I had a telephonic meeting with Congressman Stratton's office regarding downwinders. That concludes my report.
Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. Last week we had the meeting of the Mojave County Employee Benefit Trust. It's our annual meeting. It's usually 2 days. Our vendors come in. It's when we look at the budget, we look at the whole year and where we're at, and if we're going to give more benefits or if we have to raise rates. It's the whole thing. This year it was truncated. It was only 1 day. I got to tell you, I didn't really like it. The vendors were on the phone, so I don't think any of the trustees liked it very much. It's just the way it is, but hopefully next year we'll get back to it. But I think because of that, there were some decisions that we were unable to make. We needed more information. It's because of COVID, our numbers went up, but when we look to see funding for the future, it's based on projections. It's based on things that we don't know yet. So we just wanted more information before we make these big decisions. And that gave us the ability to come to the board. Last meeting, Supervisor Johnson talked about having ID security for our employees, and that was something that we had already asked Erin Collins or Gallagher, whatever they're called now, to put out for us, and they did. They did a good job. They gave us 3 choices, which I believe that the board has received. But then we have to decide if we choose to do this, whether the employee pays 100%, if it's a choice, if there is some cost sharing between the county and the employees, or if it's 100% employee paid. And I think that's a decision that the entire Board of Supervisors should make, because it's not a small number. So I'm hoping maybe next meeting we can put that on the agenda. It was too late to put on the agenda since the meeting was Thursday. So we can do that. And if anybody wants to watch this meeting, it's filmed just like this. It's here at this auditorium, and you can videotaped, and you can watch it online. I think every employee should at least once watch it to see what kind of, what we do to come up with the numbers that you pay, the benefits that you get. I'll tell you now, and I'm sure we'll have a bigger presentation. Our trust has done very well because of decisions that people made years and years ago. We are in a very good position. And we've always been a very conservative trust, but we have 0 to worry about now. There's just these what ifs. So we'll come back with that and get more into that in the next at the next meeting. I also attended the LPC meeting, which is a legislative policy committee through CSA. And we go through bills and where they're at, and if we should take a position, because CSA is our lobbying firm, for lack of a better term. So right now, the legislature has been in session for 61 days. There's been 1,708 bills. I always laugh because when people run for office, they always say, we got to have less government, and then they go out there and they just, thousands of bills. Passed out of that 1,709 so far, 59. Bills vetoed, 0. Bills signed, 44. And I'm not really sure. And then we talked about some of the bills that were going to affect us. One of them is SB 1107, which is a bill for redistricting petition signatures and 2020 candidates. And so they're asking, I'm not sure, Mesnard, I'm not sure why and what county this is meant for, but they want to have counties, by statute, we have to draw the lines by a certain date, but everything got delayed because of COVID with the census. So they want more time to redraw the supervisory district lines based on the delay. And I think that has a lot of support. I think we kind of took a supportive view on it. I'm not sure if it's going to affect us. I think we've got it going on. We know what we expect. So I'm not sure what exactly this will do, but I think it's also so candidates, because if lines are redrawn, there are people who are running for office may not have all that information. So we'll be hearing more about that. We also spoke about the Regina Cobb's irrigation non-expansion areas and procedures, and it is kind of back. We'll hear about that hopefully. And we had a whole presentation, and as much all of you know, our Congress signed a $1.9 billion COVID relief bill. And of note for Arizona counties, the bill includes $340 billion in additional aid for state and local government. $340 billion. And here, let's see. There's $60.1 billion for counties. It's going to be distributed directly from the U.S. Treasury. Approximately $1.3 billion is coming to Arizona counties. And out of that, we got a breakdown of their expected, this isn't cast in stone, this isn't the final numbers, but this is their projected numbers. And we had a list of all the counties, and if you want to see that, we'll put it back on the backup. But Mojave County is set to receive 41 million, and 41.5 million. And that will be coming in 2 two sets. It will be within 60 days of when it was signed, so it will be coming within the next 60 days. So I'm sure we'll be having a lot of discussions about that. And then a year later. But the most interesting things is that the things it can be used for, and it basically can be used for anything except lobbying. And that means for people, for citizens, for county. So we have a lot of talking to do about this. But I just wanted everyone to know that, so when they see this, they will know how it came about. It was elections have consequences. So there you go. That's all I have for today.
I attended a few meetings this last couple of weeks. One was Quad State Local Government. We're still pushing ahead with the RS 2477 legislation right-of-ways, and today we'll be filing the amicus brief on the Joshua brief. We had our NACO IT Standing Committee meeting. Rather long, but I'll try to go through it as quickly as I can. First, we had Russell Porter. He's a National Counterintelligence Coordinator and Strategic Partner. He gave an update on the threat facing local governments today and how we can work together to help navigate the ever-changing world we live in. He works for the National Counterintelligence and Security Center in D.C. He said in 2015 they were told that in the future and in time that nation-state actors would threaten our nation. He never truly imagined at the time that the future would occur so fast. Just 3 years, the warning got louder, and they were warned then that America would become a major target to cybercrime from both international and domestic cyber attacks. They were saying in 2018 that these attacks are undeniable and that the homeland is no longer a sanctuary. America is a target. Cyber attacks can attack every aspect of our lives, from elections, disinformation, spreading propaganda, assaults on critical infrastructure, cyber operations, and unattributed and proxy actors and force. Explain that the U.S. law requires the National Counterintelligence and Security Center to produce two things. One is the National Threat Identification and Prioritization Assessment, which is how they are to track and tell what is the biggest cyber threats facing our nation. And two is every 3 years they create a strategy to combat the prioritization of the cyber attack. I'll submit the other things here if anybody's interested in seeing them. We also had public plans meeting, and I will submit those things also, as it is rather long, unless somebody has questions on me after the meeting. We'll go to call to the public. Clerk has. Yep. Oh, County Manager. County Manager.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. I have a couple of items, starting with the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Just a quick update on that. There has been about 130 applications in Mojave County as of today. Department of Economic Security is working on rolling out a statewide outreach program that will start this week as well. Until that takes place, we're doing what we can locally. We are helping people already. We have had over nearly 24 households, people come in and register through the Community Services Department, and more are scheduled this week. The Department of Economic Security statewide reach out will go through their contact list. Anyone they have an email address for, a text, a phone number to call. Anybody who's had any unemployment insurance records with them will be contacted. So they're planning on coming out in a very extensive way. We had asked, if you recall, for 2 full-time employees to help with that. We're interviewing this week. We want to bring those 2 on board and position them to help those that need it, whether here at county buildings or out in the community. We will travel to whatever is needed to provide that help. So it is up and running, and as you recall, it was rolled out February 23rd. So it's only been in place for less than a month. Second, related to the paid sick leave and advanced PTO, in the first meeting of January, the board directed staff and approved an extension of the emergency paid sick leave as well as the advanced PTO through March 31st of this year. By the time we meet again, it will be in April. So given the numbers of positive cases have continued to decline steadily, and the executive order not containing any language specifically to address the paid sick leave, it is believed that at this time it's prudent to let that expire as directed by the board on March 31st, and so that will include both the paid sick leave program as well as the advanced PTO. Well, we think when the board extended it to March, it was warranted and needed. We believe that need has diminished, and it's really no longer warranted. So we're grateful for your leadership and approval on this, but we believe it's time to let it expire. And then third and last, and this is just to add a comment or two to Supervisor Angus's report related to state and local fiscal recovery fund. The discussion is still young on this one. There are many questions that still need answers. In meetings that we've had on this late last week, the statement was repeated that we need more guidance from the U.S. Department of Treasury on these criteria. There are only four. Excuse me. There are only four criteria for the implementation of this, but much guidance is needed. So we will be coming back to the board for further discussion and guidance as we get set to to implement and deliver this funding. I don't have any further than that to add at this time. Thank you, Chairman and board members.
We need a motion to approve February 1st, 2020, 2020 or 21? 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries. Clerk, you have something to read.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. I have one submission for call to public. It was submitted by Donna Ramirez of Bullhead City, and it reads, "It was extremely distasteful that Richard Mack's representative, Stephen Tuminello, singled out one of the supervisors, viciously stating that she may be the domestic enemy that our forefathers warned us about. Tuminello made false statements that he said someone told him about. He never confirmed these stories as truthful before he blurted them out, making preposterous claims that Ryan Esplin is concealing his identity. Richard Mack is doing business with Robert Hall. Robert Hall started a failed recall on Gene Bishop with Stephen Robinson. Stephen Robinson stopped Tuminello in the lobby during the last BOS meeting held on 2/16/21. Is this some kind of a conspiracy? As a common courtesy, Richard Mack needs to apologize for what is being said on his behalf. Bishop has over 30 years in law enforcement and is endorsed by Joe Arpaio. Speaking at the BOS is a right, but we should at least speak truth."
Thank you. Scotty McClure.
Scotty from Bullhead. I'd like to request that Denise, in a next meeting or something, give us a report on the flu compared to years previous, and why we think it's almost down to nothing hardly. Can she compare this to the COVID? I mean, we're really lucky this year. Is it from we're not from us wearing masks? Maybe we should have masks year round during flu season. I'm sure Ron and Hildy will put that on the agenda. How your guns doing? Boy, they're doing you in, aren't they? They're about ready to. But yeah, I'd like to hear comparisons. One thing that folks need to do, I want to thank Hildy and Denise, and especially Karen, for getting my COVID appointments. I have my card. I'm done. It's a relief. What you need to do, I remember when I got out of the Army, I made copies of my discharge papers, the DD-214. Make a copy of this. It's got your name, your birth date, where you got your shots at. I got mine at Smith's. It was such a breeze once Hildy got me in there. Done. Make a copy of this. Put it in your car. Give it to your parents. Give it to somebody. Put it in the back of your wallet. Make a copy. I hear we're having a lot of people not getting their second shots. I think you need to make a rule that you can't go in the library, which is coming up next, or 33, item 33. I don't know. These people that are getting one shot and thinking they're done, that's bull. And that's where we're getting 4,000 shots, and they're only giving out 3,500. I guess that's a real problem in Las Vegas. I read that article in one of the papers, but you got to take that second shot. I just don't get it. Or wait till Johnson & Johnson comes out, get in the back of the line. And this Desert Sky Academy down in Fort Mojave, we should move our library out of that place. I pulled in there a month ago to use it, and I felt I was in the middle of the playground. I'm serious. You pull it. I hadn't pulled in there in a year, and they have rented all the other building for classrooms. And when they change classrooms for lunch, for recess, or whatever, the recess is out there. And the parents are a bunch of idiots that get out of the doors and leave their doors wide open when you're driving in there. These people that own homes back there didn't know there was going to be an academy there and have a zoo every morning and every afternoon. They're pissed.
Thank you, sir. Ken Works?
Ken Work, reside in Yucca, Arizona. We have a problem with easements. People are blocking off easements that have been open for decades, and they're deciding on themselves to block them off. I have a map here. This area here is completely blocked off. This area here extends across I-40. This lot is completely bisected by I-40, so this map is pretty ancient. But I instead of going to court after someone blocks an easement, I'm going to contact our state representatives and try to get some legislation saying that you got to go to court in order to block off an easement instead. And I think that the county needs to think about this concern and try and put some attention towards it and input to our state representatives and try and help craft legislation that will prevent this sort of thing. These people here are deciding that no one on this side of the border can cross through this BLM land that they all own. We all own this BLM land here. They're not allowing crossing into it. And this person that owns this property is getting the BLM to fence it off with 5-wire barbed wire fence, sealing it completely off so no one can get through no matter what. So I'm going to pursue trying to get some kind of legislation passed where they have to go to court in order to block it off rather than being damaged by it. The block off and then go to court. I think that they need to prove that they have a justification for blocking it off. That's the end of my spiel. Thank you very much.
Chris Rodarte.
Chris Rodarte, Kingman. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment to our magnificent Constitution reads, "No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." At the April 30, 2020 meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, in response to Sheriff Schuster's refusal to enforce Ducey's stay-at-home order and restrictions on non-essential businesses, Supervisor Johnson argued the Sheriff's Department should issue citations because, I quote, "I'm worried about the millions of dollars that are at stake in our budget if the governor will withhold our state-shared revenues." During fiscal 2018 and 2019, state-shared revenues of $34.5 million and $37.4 million, respectively, averaged 23% of total governmental activities revenue in Mojave County, a significant sum. If Supervisor Johnson's argument holds true that state-shared revenues are in jeopardy when Mojave County refuses to enforce executive orders barked out by the state, we are, in fact, hostages to the Pharaoh in Phoenix. Confusion reigns as the gaslighting continues in this never-ending state of emergency. A small victory came when the health department stopped accepting anonymous complaints and ceased citing small business. Yet we're still banned from visiting loved ones in nursing homes, while most restaurants, even locally owned, still mask their employees and operate at reduced capacity. Worst of all, children remain forced to mask up in school as a condition of being allowed an in-person education. Did you hear what I just said? Does it sound at all like America? Our Constitution addressed oppressive laws, yet none of these orders even rise to the level of law, and yet you enforce. So the question remains, as we pass the one-year anniversary of this obnoxious pandemic, how much are you willing to risk? How much courage will you muster? Are you, in fact, prepared to call the governor's bluff in order to honor your oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic? We, the people, are watching and waiting.
Thank you. Next is the consent, items 5 through 30. Anyone have anything they want to pull? Supervisor Angus.
Nothing.
Supervisor Gould.
Number 14.
14, Supervisor Langenfelter.
Nothing this morning, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, did you have one?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, I need a motion to approve items 5 through 30 minus 14.
So moved.
Do I have a
Second. Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 14, Supervisor Gould. You have one person signed up, like them?
Sure.
Boy, Trimpe.
Morning, my name is Roy Treppi, Hackberry, Arizona. In question to number 14, I'd like an explanation of why are we spending $800,000 of taxpayers' money for a road to a company that's multi-million dollars worth?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, I agree with you, and actually it's even worse than that. This company's essentially defunct. They currently are auctioning off their equipment. They fired all the employees. It's the only business that's on this section of road. And the county has a lot of other transportation needs where this $800,000 could be better spent. This was moved to the head of the line because of the development by the Pegasus project and their hive. It has not materialized. There's no reason to spend this money at this time. The engineering that we've already spent money doing will not spoil. It can sit on the shelf until we actually need to improve that road. But I'm sure you'll agree with me that we have other transportation needs in the county that are a higher priority than essentially a road to a business that's defunct.
Definitely, sir. I agree with you. Thank you much.
Manager, do you have anything to say on this?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I would like for Mr. Latowski and Ms. Ersenbach, our development director, to just brief you on this item, give you the effect and the information that we have so you can make an informed decision.
Good morning, Chairman Johnson, members of the board. On November 4th, 2019, the board directed the Public Works Department to engage in direct right-of-way acquisition improvement of Apache Road from the end of pavement at Apache Road on northward to the open highway intersection. It's a distance of approximately 4 miles. Public Works provided that level of work, and we're really here today for the board to provide direction as to its construction. Now, the board is only considering what is known as Phase 1, or the south part of Apache Road, to improve it to a gravel condition, laid out to county standards, where we would be positioned for the board to accept the roadway as an unsurfaced roadway. In November of 2019, staff offered merely an opinion of cost of $500,000 for engineering and construction for the entire 4 miles. And this work has turned out to be more of a drainage improvement. There are numerous small wash crossings that under the South project alone requires upwards of 20 plus culvert crossings. And should the board wish to move ahead on this, that speaks for the lion's share of the cost. The low bidder came in at $782,000 for requesting a nominal contingency if the board were to go ahead to set the project budget at $800,000. However, this is again well ahead of, or well above, the original appropriation of $500,000. Now, the engineering, Supervisor Gould was spot on with his comment. The engineering plans are complete for the entire section, and they can be a point of reference in the future, or possibly support our review of another entity undertaking the project. They were done at only a cost of $41,500. So in front of the board for consideration is a contingency transfer in addition to any contemplation of construction award for the south section of the 2.5 miles for $426,475. I carefully looked at this figure, and I have reason to recommend, only on premise that we have seen a $2.2 million increase in our HERF revenue. That's projected from FY20 actual to FY21 forecast. And we are, due to the absence of ADOT millings in their pavement preservation works on US 93, not moving forward on about $366,000 of soil stabilization hard surfacing projects, projects that will be reprogrammed in FY22. But I leave one caveat that we are seeing material prices rather steadily escalate now through the spring, and we have a number of road projects programmed in our road program for this spring that we're monitoring those prices closely, and I cannot rule out at this time Public Works coming back to the board for a small contingency transfer to cover some of the material price escalations that we're seeing. both on the gravel production end as well as on the bituminous end. Kind of goes hand in hand with some of the oil figures that. I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Chairman, Tammy is in the audience, right? Just wanted Tammy to also provide you an update, Mr. Chairman and board members, just so you know what is occurring and happening in the way of economic development and the potential for that.
Thank you, Chairman, and Board of Supervisors. What is happening is it's not just Pegasus that is hoping for that road to be moving forward, and they actually have not requested anything recently from the county for that road. It has been some other projects that are looking to come in that way. We had one company that was looking to come just the south side of Pegasus. They were going to purchase or lease some land, and a large company, and they decided not to come because the road was not in the condition it needed to be. The fire department, as we know, already submitted a letter stating that if something happened to, whether it be Praxair or one of the power plants, that if Griffith was blocked off, they would need another exit if possible to get those employees out. The closest place and other road out of that area would be Sacramento, which is about 2 miles away from there. So trying to see what they could do to support the companies that are there, whether it be Meyer and the power plants and all of the businesses there. I know one of the questions is about Pegasus, and they are moving forward. And I have not, as of today, received a public letter of something that I can say specifically. So I'm going to tell you that they had an employee that has put them in quite a bit of turmoil and debt, of which they are almost finished. They have changed their plans. They have a new CEO. They've changed their plans. They're finalizing the last bit of engineering, and they're going to actually put solar panels in the ground instead of on trailers. So their trailers have been out for auction. They have, and that's true because they don't need them at this point. They want to get rid of those so they can actually put them in the ground. And they're working with a third party, and they've signed a contract with a third party to actually build buildings on the land for the data center portion. So it's coming together. It's taken months longer than they anticipated because they've had a lot of things to clean up first from the past CEO, not CEO specifically, but from the last group of people that they were working with. So they're in the process that they will be hiring again in the next few months to get things moving forward. They've even to the point that there may be an excess of power, and so they have a PPA already in place, which is, if anyone's ever worked with those, it's very difficult to get. It's very time consuming. But they already have a PPA in place that will purchase the power if there's an excess. So I'm open to any questions, as well as Steve is open to questions.
Right,
Thank you. So we made this promise to them when they were doing, when they first came in, right? This was what we were going to contribute to that. So the idea has changed, but they are still, I'm just trying to understand. So they're still coming in.
They are.
It's just that they're doing things a little differently.
Right.
But they still need that
Yes.
infrastructure.
In fact, when they start the project, that we know that they purchased a second piece of land, so it's about 1,500 acres. They're going to do both simultaneously. It won't just be phase 1 and phase 2.
And will this open up other acreage to economic development?
Yes.
Because that was all part of our discussion
It's
that
exactly.
we had. I think that all of that is still in play.
It is.
This is just a blip. I mean, it happens. But you're telling me you're confident that they're still going to come.
As of Friday, everything's still moving forward. Yes, when I spoke to them on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tammy, I had heard that they have outstanding bills with 2 rental yards now.
If they
and can't get
do,
anybody to rent them equipment.
If they do, then we need to know what those are, because there have been several outstanding bills they haven't known about. Unfortunately, those bills have gone to a different address and they haven't had access to them. So if that's true, if you send them to me, I'll make sure that they get them.
Do you know if Tony Robbins and the Duchess of York are still involved with the project?
Yes.
I'd heard that they were not.
My last understanding is that they were. And that was just a few weeks ago.
I drove out there before I came to the meeting. There's land available that's already on paved road. The road to the new warehouse is paved. The road to Griffith is paved. Essentially, there was land available on an existing road.
There has been land available, but the terms that the people have looked at have not worked out. There's a lot of small little parcels in between there, not just large ones. And there's a lot of land in there that's already been secured by another company.
But my point is, so we let people come in and buy land that they don't have a paved road to. That devalues the people's land that is already on a paved road.
But we don't have access. We can't control where they buy land or who they work with.
We can't control whether we build $1 million road.
That's true.
By doing that, we are picking winners and losers.
But
So we've decided that these folks are the winners, and the people that have their land is already on a paved road are going to lose.
I do know this much. Some of the signs out there on property do not go with the property that the signs are for. So it may be, I'm not sure which signs you're looking at, but I know for a fact there's two signs up there right now on property that is not for sale. So I don't know what you're referring to.
Even if everybody owns every piece of property in the county belongs to somebody.
Right.
And I would argue vacant land is always for sale. If it's not for sale today, plans change. I believe that warehouse that was just built out there was built on the former site of a Walmart distribution center.
That's true.
So when it wasn't for sale, when Walmart was going to build, it became for sale later. But my point is, one, we have more pressing transportation needs than this. And that because people bought land that was in a place that wasn't on a paved road, I don't think it's up to the taxpayers of Mojave County to provide a road for them. And by doing that, you are picking winners and losers. I'm not here to pick winners and losers. I'm here to make sure that everybody gets a fair shot. And I think we have more pressing transportation needs, and I bet every supervisor up here has more pressing transportation needs than to a dubious project that may not even go forward.
Mr. Chairman? Tammy, has this company cost Mojave County any money?
The project itself, no, other than the engineering for this road.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I know of.
Did we offer any incentives to bring this company here?
No.
So they're a property owner and they're currently paying property taxes, and economic development, I think we all agree, is the future of Mojave County. When economic development grows in Mojave County, we receive tax revenue from that, and we receive jobs, and hopefully our roads are upgraded, and more HERF dollars are earned, and more residential roads can then be paved. So I think this is forward thinking and planning for the I-40 Griffith Industrial Park. It's what Mojave County's been planning for at least 20 years. I'm sure Supervisor Johnson was part of that initial planning out there. So I think this is a good investment, and it's not just for the one company that's having a slow start because of internal problems, but it's also for the company that you mentioned that you lost the deal on because of the road, and the other companies that are going to be buying up the other vacant land, and this is going to be the industrial park out there, and growth is imminent. It's coming. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, like I said, and I don't think Supervisor Gould was here at the time. We had this discussion and we fleshed it out. The only thing in my idea that has changed is if this company is going to come, you say yes. Is there any way we could put it off until we are absolutely sure that they're going to do it? Or are you confident that they're going to do it?
I'm confident that they're going to do it, but I think that there's time if you put it off and do it in 6 months or a year. The need is still going to be there, whether it's for this company or another company.
Right.
There's still going to be need for it.
Again, another board made promises, and and you went out there based on those promises. And I know that each board is in its own unit, but I think our word is important as well. Thank you.
Chairman.
Supervisor Lingerfeld?
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. As the new supervisor, I really researched this weekend to bring myself up to speed. And personally, I'm very supportive of infrastructure for economic development. But when it's part of a negotiated package that both sides are fulfilling their obligations, and obviously the public benefits have to exceed the public investment. The part of that, I think conditions have changed since 2019. And my comfort level, I just think we can't go forward on just promises. I mean, they may promise you everything in the world, but until it just, at this point, it feels very speculative to me. But again, I do support infrastructure for economic development. I'd like to see some sort of county master plan for that area and how this project really fits into it, because I know that you have a whole lot of land. It's you have a whole lot of dirt and not a lot of real estate that you can build a project on. There's a lot of issues out there. I would agree that maybe when you actually have something that's more concrete and specific, where there's going to be milestones to be met, I feel more comfortable voting for spending this money as a part of an economic development project that we have in writing, and not just assurances from a company that hasn't met their previous assurances. I'm not comfortable with that. Thank you.
Yes, something, County Manager? County Manager, Jeff?
Mr. Chairman, board members, yes, just a couple of thoughts again, not inserting myself in the discussion among the board members, but just to point out, Mojave County does have a transportation and road hierarchy, and at the top of that is the classification of county highways. County highways are designated for a reason, and they're at the top of the list, the corridors that county has in the past invested on and improved, does today and will do so in the future. Apache Road is a county highway, just for the record. It's impassable today. So these improvements that are scheduled are to address to make it passable due to some drainage crossings and impact on it. It's not to be paved. From a traffic circulation perspective, it does provide, when built, when the entire 4 mile is built, it does provide connectivity to Oatman Highway. So from a transportation perspective, it does meet the expectations. And then last but not least, it is part of the industrial area and industrial corridor. And there has been in the past, as you heard from Tammy, and there may very well be in the near future, interest in land off of this corridor, and whether this corridor is passable or not will make a difference as to where that interest goes. So I just wanted to perhaps wrap up the staff's comments and recommendation and offer that for your consideration. Thank you.
Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. County Manager Elters, do we normally adopt impassable roads as county highways?
The board has over the years adopted various roads in various conditions as county highways before they improved them, Supervisor Gould. I can't honestly say for sure whether they did adopt any ones that were not passable or not, but I can tell you I'm familiar with county highways from my days at the county where they were just graded, biomotor graded every once in a while, that then were adopted as county highways and improved, engineered and improved to current standards. So it's not unheard of. Again, it is a process that comes through the Board of Supervisors for designation.
So it would be a political decision then?
Well, there are criterias in place that are usually reviewed by staff before it is brought to the board, but the ultimate decision is definitely made at the board. I won't touch the political decision. I'll just say it is made by the.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Johnson, thank you. You know, even with this project, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a paved surface, and I feel like if you're going to do this road and it's critical to developing economic development out there, that we should do it right. I mean, do the whole thing, pave it. Perhaps that becomes a part of our discussion in the future for relief funds, some sort of infrastructure for economic development. But, or it's tied to a specific project where we have faith that they're going to meet their commitments.
I have a question. Director Ursulbach.
I sat down, sorry.
All the economic development that you're doing, where's the most interest in securing property and doing building at?
Within the Griffith industrial area.
Okay, and I think that's my concern is, you know, we developed that industrial corridor, has been made a highway. I had some of the same concerns that the Supervisor Lingenfelter had, but Apache will be used by the public, and it'll be used a lot by the public because it will be an emergency exit, plus it connects, like you said, Oakland and over into Griffith. So I see no problem. I think if we do this with just gravel, I think it'll show a lot more interest out there and obviously help the people get more jobs. That was fine.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bishop.
Tammy, can you tell us what new industries have come into that area just recently, or are there prospects that are ready to announce or close to that?
So Meyer Distributing is there. They built a 250,000 square foot building, but it is on the south side of the power plant. They are already having discussions at adding an additional 250,000 to that building, as well as an additional 150,000 square foot new building to the east of them on that property. So that particular one is moving forward. There are other projects that are looking at the area. Two of them have secured property. One of them has secured 1,500 acres, so it's a lot of land. The other one has secured about 320, I think, acres. And then I've got other companies that are looking but have not secured anything yet.
And seems like I remember truck stops coming in on either end. I think one in the Yucca area and another one around Shenrup or the Oman Highway.
We've also I've had 4 truck stops in a hotel looking at that corner as well.
Okay.
But no one has, like I said, they haven't secured the land yet. So till they do, it's still there.
Okay, so in your opinion, you stated that this is where most of the interest is in Mojave County right now. I see this area as growing faster and faster as these companies from other states realize that it's cheaper to do business here. And as far as the road being only gravel at this point, I believe Mr. Letowski will say that it's being readied for pavement if the businesses that come in then warrant pavement. But for now,
Yeah, it doesn't work.
is it your statement that a gravel road would be enough to attract these businesses
Yes.
to?
Yes.
And then the Pegasus situation, as far as tax revenue that will come to Mojave County, I understand it will be more tax revenue because their structures will now be permanent instead of movable. They'll be taxed
Right.
differently, and that
That's
revenue
right.
will be an increase for Mojave County.
Much more.
Supervisor Angus.
I make a motion that we approve item 14.
I'll second that.
Motion and second for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries. All right, item number 31, Mr. Lingenfelter. We also have two people in the audience who will speak if you need them.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. I put this on the agenda as their lease, I believe, is up at the end of the year. Had risk management go out and inspect the property. They've maintained the facility in good condition. This item, if approved, requires a unanimous vote. And that's really it. I think they've been doing a good job at this facility, and they'd like to continue to operate out of that facility. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about the length of the lease.
Yes.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'll also ask Ryan, which is the legal department has been involved. The prior lease was a 20-year term, so I believe we just extended that clause in the proposed lease as well, but I'll let Ryan elaborate on that.
So, in answer to Supervisor Bishop's question, and I'm going to go a little bit back, the history of this parcel has actually been, well, not so much parcel, but participation with ARC has been a long time, been since the 80s, the early 80s. Mojave County began leasing to ARC a facility, I think it was the Little Red Schoolhouse. You're probably familiar with it, more familiar than I am. They first leased that for a long period of time, and then eventually they went over to this property on Airway. The length of the leases with ARC has always been a long period of time, whether it was 15 years, 20 years, 10 years. Every time that they've come before us, it's always been a long time. Last time they came, they requested 20 years, and actually it was modified down to 15. So we're working on a 15-year lease, but prior to that, there may have been a 20-year lease. So it's been interchangeable, either 15 or 20 years working with ARC. Always it seems like it's always been a pretty good professional relationship between Mojave County and ARC. It's authorized by statute. This is something that you can do. You have the authority to do. It's a very good organization. It seems very positive. It's been in the community for a long period of time. I don't have concerns about the length. I think any time somebody's leasing property, they want it as long as they wish. But whether you do it 15, 20, 10, that's your discretion, whatever you wish to do.
Mr. Esplin, is there a remedy if there is a situation where we needed to break that lease that we could do that?
Under the terms of the lease, obviously, if they violate the terms of the lease, then we would have cause to be able to terminate it. There's a provision in there. I believe it's a 30-day remedy period that they'd have 30 days to fix, and then if they don't fix it, then we could terminate it. There is not a termination without cause clause. That was not included in there. That was not in the previous one. So that is not in there.
Okay. All right. I just wanted that clarified, and I am in support of this. And if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion.
I have some questions, Supervisor Angus. Supervisor Bishop. How old is this building?
I don't know how old it is. Wristband. I don't know if anybody knows that.
Oh, I know.
Don't know.
But it's old, correct?
That's relative, right? I mean.
Well, no, I mean, because the county, we've had so many buildings that have been condemned, and it costs us a ton of money to fix up, and now you want to give a 20-year lease. I kind of agree with Supervisor Bishop. We have nothing in there take it back without cause. Not that we're gonna, but I would be more comfortable with just maybe a 10-year lease and then having it put in that we could take it back without cause. We probably won't be here. Maybe some of us will, but it just seems like we're obligating the county for 20 years for $10 a year. That was all.
Okay, so Chairman Johnson, I will make the motion, and I'll add in that motion your suggestions there with a 10-year lease with a something in the contract that we can terminate if need be.
Terminate without clause?
Yes.
Without cause.
I'll second.
Motion second for discussion. Supervisor Lingerfelter?
No, I'm good.
No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 32, update from the County Attorney's Office on the letter sent to the Director of the Arizona Department of Economic Security. Attorney Esplin?
Thank you. So I have an update. After the board meeting on March 1st, there's really kind of a two-prong approach. County administration and then myself contacted the various different entities or parties involved. The letter, I believe the clerk of the board sent the letter. Afterward, the county administration was able to use their influence and their connections with the CSA, I believe, to see if they can get any communications with the governor's department. On my end, I reached out to, on the lawyer side, the Arizona Attorney General's office to see if I could speak with their attorney. The update that we have specifically today is this kind of two-part. One is a response we got back from, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this person is in the governor's office. Ben Blick, is he in the governor's office?
Yes.
Okay. His response was, and this was to county administration, if I may, Sam.
Yep, please.
His email was, I've been in touch with Director Weishart and our operations team. As you know, our unemployment system is set up to automatically charge reimbursable employers every quarter. Let me cut to the chase. It says, that being said, DES and our office are in total agreement that local governments and nonprofits shouldn't have to pay for fraudulent claims. Local governments, including Bullhead City, have reached out to get relief. We're happy to work with Mojave County in a similar fashion. And then they provided some information as to who to contact. That's kind of the similar response that I got. I received this on Saturday. This is from the Department of Economic Security. Their response was, DES can directly address Mojave County's previous payments that included suspected fraudulent claims, and then they provided information as to who that is. So there was two parts to the request we made to the Department of Economic Security. One was for a credit. The other one was, what measures are you taking to prevent the fraud from further occurrence? And the response I got on Saturday was, it says, DES takes fraud concerns very seriously and is certainly aware of the increase in fraudulent claims. While there has not been a breach of information stored by DES, criminal actors have obtained individuals' personal information using tactics such as phishing scams and previous corporate data breaches. And then it says, DES now requires that all applicants for all unemployment programs in Arizona complete identity verification prior to filing a new application or weekly claim for unemployment. You know, the devil is in the details, the proof is in the pudding, whatever cliche that you can come up with. Whether we will see the stop of it, who knows? You're never going to get 100% prevention, but hopefully we're starting to see a little bit where they're taking it much more serious and that they are taking measures to prevent the fraud. The other part, getting the credit for the monies that Mojave County has already paid out, it looks like that's in the works. We received two different confirmations, one from the governor's office, one from DES, saying we will work with Mojave County. So I can work with HR to get that process moving, and so that really it's the squeaky wheel, and continue to notify them that, hey, we want to make sure we get that credit. So that's where we stand as far as an update is.
We've just gotten the letters. I kind of put this on because Supervisor Angus, I think, agreed too that maybe we should have available to us to sue if these things go that way. And The attorney said that was part of the motion last time. I don't know if we want to just update our motion to say, continue to work with DES and also look at litigation if it need be.
Well, I mean, in response to that, we always look to see if that's an option. I mean, in anything that we're handling, and we always look to see if there is a possibility where the county attorney needs to step in and do something. County attorney's office. I think right now things are moving well. We're not done. We still need to get those credits until we get the credits that we believe that we should have. It's always on the table. I don't think that this is something that should be pursued in the courts at this time. I don't. And I'm hopeful that we can avoid that. We're not trying to go out and seek fights and things. But I wouldn't. I mean, I think that option is always available. You can always come back and do it later. But at this time, I don't see it right now. I don't. And I've talked with you as well, the strength, the weaknesses of the claims. But I think that option is always available. But I like the path that right now that we're going on. See what happens.
And I guess the reason I'm asking is because when I talked about it before, I was told that no, that option wasn't on the table because it wasn't in the motion. So that's all I'm looking for. If we want to put that into the motion, that's available, just so that we don't have to come back and keep doing this.
I'm sorry, Chairman, if I could just respond to that. And I'm sorry if I've made it confusing. I just think that's always an option. Just, okay, we always look at our legal options, but we would have to come back to the board for the board's approval and direction to do that.
I think it just makes us look more serious if we say we're ready to go. That was all. Any discussion or anything from the board members? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to item 33. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. It comes to my attention, a year into this, that our Mojave County libraries are still closed for browsing and computers and everything that people like using libraries for. And I think with the change in the executive order, the direction from the state, and given that schools are opening and restaurants are 100%, I think it's time that we opened up our libraries. I've been starting to get complaints and inquiries about that.
Chairman Johnson. Thank you, Chairman Johnson. No, I would echo what Supervisor Angus has said. The governor has mandated that all schools go back into in-person and classroom learning by the end of spring break. The libraries are obviously a huge component of the education process, and it's a resource for our students. I think those that are still maybe fearful for going into public facilities, that the library would still have options for those people to get books. So I would also like to see our libraries that are, tax funded, and here we just renovated the Kingman Library and you can't really even use it. So it's time to open them up.
Mr. Chairman?
Backup submitted by the county manager, is that what everyone is looking at to adopt?
Mr. Chairman, I was just looking at the proposed plan that the county manager put forward, and I think that's an excellent compromise to start opening them back up and still have a few restrictions in place. But I'd also like to hear what our library director has to say.
Good morning, Board. Thank you. Yes, I was a part of the plan that, a participant in the plan that Mr. Elters submitted, and I think that our staff feels that they can handle things at this level. If I may, I would like to just correct a couple of things that I've seen in the newspapers over the weekend, and one was that the library was closed from May till July. That's not correct. If you'll recall, on March 20th of 2020, we had a special board meeting, and at that meeting, the board did vote unanimously for us to close for 60 days, which is exactly what we did. We opened again then on May the 20th of 2020, and at that time, We did run a plan through the county manager at that time, and it was agreed on, and that's what we've been operating on since. So, and the other thing is that we have no computers that are available. That's not correct. From the day we opened on May 20th, we have had computers available at every single location.
Anything else? Any other questions, Supervisor Angus?
Kathy, do you agree with the list of things that are being proposed to expand the library?
Yes, we can do that. I think our staff will do whatever we can to make sure that works.
Okay, but you think that's workable and you can make it happen?
I think we can make this happen, yes.
Supervisor Angus?
For the public, some of these things are open library book stacks for browsing at all locations. Add computers are 3 main branches for children and teens. So are these going to be new computers? Where are they coming from and who's paying for them?
No, we have them. We just have not had them available for the teens and the children during this time. But
So how many computers have you had?
We have had at our 3 larger branches, we've had 6 available, social distance, and to date, they've been more than adequate.
Okay.
And that's why we put in that, if we see a spike in use, we can certainly add the others back. We've just had them not in use at this time.
Continue to limit seating in order to reduce the congregation of people and ensure conditions allow for appropriate physical distancing between patrons. So what is that going to look like?
Well, what I'm hoping that we can continue to do is not have tables and chairs out for people to come in and sit all day. What we feel like we would have a lot of trouble doing is watching when people come in, when they leave, going out and thoroughly cleaning. So we want people to come in and do what they need to do, whether it's use the computer, whether it's get books, but I think we would have trouble with our level of staff of monitoring how long somebody's at a chair, when they get up, cleaning it before somebody else sits down, and that type of thing.
Okay, but it says here continue to limit seating, and so I just want to know what's the limit look like? What is the max, and what are you proposing?
Well, again, what I'm hoping that we can do is only have the chairs out for people that are using computers or if they're using the library catalog, but not to have somebody come in and read the newspaper for several hours or for 10 minutes, because for staff to do everything else they need to do and then have somebody monitoring, especially not only at our larger locations, because if we've got somebody that walks in over there and then we're watching, when did you leave, so we can run over and clean the table and those kinds of things, which is what we're trying to keep people safe. As in restaurants, they clean the tables after everybody gets up and leaves. They thoroughly sanitize them, and that's what we feel that we would need to do if we continued to just have that kind of...
So people couldn't come and read the paper and sit and read a book?
Well, that's what we're hoping to do at this point.
They can only come and sit at a computer.
And what I'm hoping that at least we can keep it at that level until the time that my staff... half of my staff has been between the ages of 50 and 64. They're not even eligible for the vaccinations yet. So I'm hoping that at that time maybe we can open it up a little bit more, but I'm trying to protect not only the public but our staff. We don't have a mask mandate like most of the libraries who are opening up a little bit do.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Angus, may I jump in, please?
County Manager.
Please consider this as an interim solution. The intent is to really look at the vaccination rate. We're working toward vaccinating everyone, but we're not there yet. And so this is a truly an interim solution. It's working with what we have. So please keep that in mind. It's only an interim, and we'll come back to the board and continue to expand it. We just feel like it's a balanced approach for now. Today, as we speak, you can go in the library and use the computer, but you cannot browse for books. You would have to tell them what you're looking for. They would go get it for you. They have a sidewalk pickup or whatever the term is used for that, but it is fairly limited. It's being expanded through this plan, and the idea of just opening it up where people come and go and use it for reading a book, paper or otherwise, remains challenging a bit. That's what the library is for. We want to open it up to where it serves the purpose like it was before the pandemic, and we want to get there. We're just trying to measure ourselves getting there. So we'll expand on it as soon as the vaccine increases a bit in that age group. We're trying to do the best we can. We're trying to do the right thing, and so thanks for allowing me to jump in and add that.
Supervisor Lingenfeld.
Chairman Johnson, thank you. You know, it's been a year. These are taxpayer-funded facilities. And to me, this is just, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this plan, but I just feel like this is an example of the way government overcomplicates things. I think they just need to be opened up. And if you don't want to go to the library, you don't feel comfortable at the library, then don't go to the library. Or get a curbside book. But don't ruin it for the kids that are going to be coming back into school for a session, that need to stay in the library maybe. Their family needs them to stay there with somebody, a caregiver. They need to have the rooms available for study in quiet areas. They need to have the computers available. Open it up, no restrictions, and let people individually choose what's best for themselves and their families.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the library returns to 100% normal operation.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop.
Kathy, could you put hand sanitizers and cleaning items out on these tables so the customers could clean the table themselves, kind of like the grocery store? You go in there and when you get your grocery cart, there's wipes where you wipe down the cart yourself and off you go. So could we not do that at the library?
We can do whatever you all decide.
But I mean, is that a workable solution? Do you think that would limit some of the worry that staff has and the concerns and maybe even some of the liabilities?
It would not be my preference, but as I said, that's.
Do you think you will lose employees if we fully open the libraries? Is that your thought?
I don't want to speak for them, but like I said, we've got of our total staffing right now, we have 5 people that are eligible for vaccinations, and that's it.
Supervisor Angus.
I understand we got some letters from employees, but again, I don't understand, and I don't know how to say this without sounding mean, I guess, but why government workers are sort of like this class where we listen to the way they want to have their jobs conducted. You know, no one asked the grocery store worker, no one asked the waitress. And if I understand the shots are coming, the jabs, as they call it in London. And so I think if your employees, they want to wear masks, and masks protect you. That's what we keep being told. And I think people, after a year, they understand. I mean, now it's just, by habit. When you go to somewhere, you clean it up. I think people are used to that. And this is, again, like Supervisor Lingenfelter said, this is this is a funded facility by the taxpayers, and I think we have to make it available for them. Their needs trump ours.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Bishop.
I think maybe we can open the libraries and still require social distancing. I mean, I think this list is a good proposal, but I think even some of this can be eliminated and just put out the sanitary wipes and the cleaning wipes and require social distancing and leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman, board members, on that very item, it seems like the point in this plan that is a concern with for the board members is the limited seating. Would you consider maybe right now there are no chairs or tables where you can come sit down and use. This plan calls for that to continue for just an interim period of time. Clearly, that's not acceptable to you. What if we were to provide a handful of just a limited tables and chairs to keep that social distancing? I mean, we've done so good up to this point. We're almost there. Just a little bit of patience. All we're asking for, understanding this is a public facility. We truly want to get there, like you. So, I don't know how many tables were at the library and chairs prior, but if we were to do something less to space them out, would that be acceptable? We just want to get there safely. That's all.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Angus.
do you know something we don't know? Because Dr. Fauci said this can be going on for years. You said we're almost there. So can you share that with us? Have you been told at your county managers meeting that we're almost done with COVID or something?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Angus, it's always good to have some hope. We're doing good with the vaccination. I truly, individually believe that as we approach that 50% mark, and we're not far from there, the tide is turning already and will continue to turn. We can build on it, and we can do it in an informed manner. But it's optimism, Supervisors, that's all.
Well, thank you. I think there's some on the board who feel differently, have different opinions on it. So I think we have a motion.
We have a motion. Does anybody want to amend their motion? Somebody?
So I could support this if the motion was changed just slightly to allow social distancing and cleaning supplies be added.
I seconded Supervisor Gould's motion. Ready.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Members, I don't know if you've noticed this, but people now naturally socially distance themselves. Even the guy that in the past would get up in your face and talk to you, that guy doesn't get up in your face and talk to you anymore. If there's 6 chairs, somebody's not at the library's not going to come and park themselves right next to another person, because now we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned to spread ourselves out. I don't think that we need to tell them they have to spread themselves out anymore. They know that they need to spread themselves out. It's just now it's conditioned into them. And I'm not sure that's positive, to tell you the truth. I think it makes everybody standoffish between that and the use of masks that you can't see people's faces anymore. I happened to see, was in the market, and I think it was the girl that cuts my hair, but I'm not 100% sure because I've never seen her without a mask on. And that's what we've devolved to.
I think it's the responsibility of every household to make their own decisions for themselves and their children. And hopefully they're talking to their own primary care doctor in making those choices. But it's not my decision as a board of supervisor to say you can't go into the library. I'm not going to make that decision for you. You make that decision for yourself and your kid.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing. All right, come on up, Floor.
I'm from the generation that doesn't understand computers. The reason I came up here it wasn't just to bug you guys. I want my newspapers back. So she's going to have to get the mail going again, start the subscriptions again. But how dare you guys say that I can't go to that library, use the library? by not having a newspaper. I can do 10 feet away from somebody. If you have a COVID card, I should be able to go in there and use it. Got it? Maybe that'll get some people to get their second shot. I've got both shots. Maybe you don't get to read the newspapers if you don't have a card. And that should be the girl when you walk in there. But for some of this, same thing with using those computers. They got 3 rows of computers. The people that have, a lot of people like to come in there with their wives or boyfriends, girlfriends, or their kid and go on a computer thing and do their thing. And if they've been vaccinated, they should be able to take their wife or husband in there with them if they have one of these cards and put them 3 feet apart. Fauci says we're going to do the 3 feet now. So, and then have the other rows. There's about 20 computers in there, Hildy. Quite a few. And so maybe have those other 2 rows where you got to do the 6 feet or 10 feet, whatever. Have some rules, but to take my newspaper away, you can still do curbside service. You can open up one public meeting room. You can have the seats like this. Clean and disinfect. You got $9 million from the government to go buy the damn stuff. Use it. Buy the stuff. You still got curbside service. But get my newspaper back. That's why I really came up here, and I hope I bugged the hell out of you enough.
We have a motion and a second here, no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 34, Ms. Burley.
Morning, Chairman, members of the board. Get myself settled here really quick. Get my notes all ready. Okay, all right. I'll start off as I always do with the numbers, and I'll just do that very briefly, not waste a lot of time. As of March 12th, there have been a total of 19,410 COVID-19 cases in the county to date. 12,735 of those cases have recovered. We've had 573 deaths associated with COVID-19, 1,891 people hospitalized at some point during their illness. Our average age of cases is 47.7. Average age of deaths is 75.4. Case fatality rate overall throughout the entire pandemic has been 3%. Our case fatality rate in February was 2%. So we did see a reduction in that.
Let's go.
Denise, I hate to interrupt you. With the number for hospitalization?
That was 1,891 people hospitalized at some point during their illness during the entire pandemic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Hospital update. I'm just going to go through a summary here. We've seen a decreased community transmission has resulted in significantly improved rates of COVID plus ED visits. Plus, the long course of the disease continues to add a burden to hospital services. Improvement is slow, but it is taking place. So we are seeing reductions in many of the numbers that we've seen in the hospital report. So that's a good sign, and we'll continue to monitor those, but we are seeing improvements all the way across the board. Okay, so we'll move on to schools. The CDC, as you know, did update their guidance for schools, and then the governor issued Executive Order 2021-04. In response to the CDC, updated CDC guidelines, the governor put into place that executive order, and that was called Open for In-Person Learning, and it outlined new benchmarks for schools. So as an example, one of the old benchmarks for schools were 2 weeks below 100 cases per 100,000 population, not including the current week. 2 weeks with percent positivity below 7%, not including the current week.
and 2 weeks with hospital visits due to COVID-like illness below 10%. This new school benchmarks are total new cases per 100,000 persons in the last 7 days, percentage of PCR tests positive during the last 7 days, and then the COVID-like illness is not included in that dashboard, which is a good thing, really, because I think all of us kind of questioned its value as it related to this particular topic anyway. So there's a couple of key points with this executive order, and here's a summary. Low or moderate transmission, so counties in low or moderate transmission. Schools should be open with in-person and virtual options. Social distancing should be maximized. Those that are in substantial transmission, schools should be open with in-person and virtual instruction options. Social distancing should be maximized. Middle and high schools may reduce its attendance to increase social distancing. And high transmission, elementary schools open with in-person and virtual options. Middle and high school, if currently open, continue but implement strict mitigation strategies. If currently operating virtually, continue. However, schools can open for in-person strict with mitigation strategies in place. Schools should notify parents that in-person learning will continue within a reasonable time frame. Schools should offer virtual options if requested by parent or guardian. And schools may close after working with the Mojave County Department of Health or any health department. It's not just us. This is all across the state if there is a significant outbreak. Now, that has been in place forever. Since the very beginning, this has been in place. But we work very closely with schools that have encountered outbreaks. Our goal is never to close a school. We've been successful in that. We've never made that recommendation to a school, nor have we made it to ADHS. So I just want to be clear where we stand on schools. We continue to work with nurses and administration and follow up on all case investigations, but that's been a priority for us, is to make sure that we're not in a position to ever have to close down or recommend the closure of the school. It doesn't benefit anybody if we do that, really. Any questions about the school?
Just one question, if I may.
Certainly.
I read recently that the CDC modified their guidelines on mitigation strategies, and they removed surgical masks from schools. Can you tell me about that? So are they still recommending that children are masking all day at school? Or?
So let me get to that. Thank you. Appreciate that. I did have that information. So universal and correct use of masks should be required at all levels of transmission, and that is the CDC's guidance. Okay. Additionally, emergency measure 2020-04, which is coming from the Arizona Department of Health Services, states that face masks are required except for those who are under the age of 2 or have trouble breathing, etc. So in those circumstances, that wouldn't be required. Additionally, I believe Supervisor Lingenfelter, you brought up the AIA standards about athletics. Did you?
Yes.
Okay. So they decided by a vote of 5-3 that spring sports student athletes won't have to wear masks during active gameplay when competitions begin, and they began this week.
Great.
Or last week. Yes, last Friday. When on the bench or not playing, everyone is still required to wear masks.
It doesn't make much sense to be on the soccer field wearing a mask, in my opinion.
Yeah, have to admit, I'd have a little trouble breathing myself. Any other questions there, Con? Yes.
Mr. Chairman? Just for the record, there have been no children who have died of COVID in Mojave County or everywhere else for that matter.
Don't believe so, no.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I know that another resident brought up nursing home issues and concerns last meeting. CMS has updated their nursing home guidance as of March 10th. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, in collaboration with CDC, issued updated guidance for nursing homes to safely expand visitation options during the COVID-19 pandemic public health emergency. So that guidance is on the CDC website, I believe, and on the CMS website, but I can go through some of the highlights if you'd like, so that that can be known to the public. According to the updated guidance, facilities should allow responsible indoor visitation at all times and for all residents, regardless of vaccination status of the resident or visitor, unless certain scenarios arise that would limit visitation. Unvaccinated residents, if the COVID-19 county positivity rate is greater than 10% and less than 70% of residents in the facility are fully vaccinated. So there's conditions along with this, but the goal is to really begin to open up some of these sites for some in-person visits so that these people can visit with their family in a more compassionate manner. The updated guidance also emphasizes that compassionate care visits should be allowed at all times, regardless of the resident's vaccination status, or positivity rate, or any outbreaks. These compassionate care visits include visits for a resident whose health has sharply declined or is experiencing a significant change in circumstances. CMS will continue to recommend facilities, residents, and families adhere to the core principles of infection control, including maintaining physical distancing, conducting visits outdoors whenever possible, and they will continue to monitor and update the situation moving forward. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So as of today, have most of the long-term care and assisted livings, have they been vaccinated?
Most have received at least one visit, if not two, already, yes, in our county.
Because that was sort of the first category.
Correct.
So all of these things you just talked about are in play.
Correct.
Okay.
That was effective, their guidance was March 10th. So I believe facilities would have needed to start looking at that guidance and determining how they would modify their process.
But is it still up to the facility?
The facility ultimately will set their own rules. Absolutely. But I mean, their goal is to follow CMS guidance as well, and that should be based off of CDC guidance. And in those situations, you're following the science, and that's what you should be doing in these cases. All right. So, yes.
I want to make a comment. They're actually following that advice so they don't get sued. Whether it's science or not, we'll find out. May find out some other day, but they're really playing cover their tail. That's why they do it. That's why the retailers do it, because they're afraid of lawsuits by their own employees. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to vaccine. As you know, I sent out a notice. We will be receiving an additional 800 doses this week in addition to the 8,000 that we were allocated last week. This is a result of a jurisdiction not ordering all of their, or using all of their allocation. And in those cases, the ADHS crew will reach out to different counties to ask if they would be interested in receiving that additional vaccine. There was no question that we would do that, so we said yes. So that vaccine will be coming in the next couple of days. So right now, our percent of COVID-19 doses utilized, and this was prior to the state updating their webpage, so I'll be clear. The state will update their webpage. Now let me step back. So as of the end of the day yesterday, 95.8% of our vaccine was administered. This morning, when ADHS updated their webpage, they updated that webpage to include this week's allocation. So this week's allocation hasn't been received yet. That's not till tomorrow and Wednesday. So as of yesterday, I can tell you 95.8%, but if you look at the ADH website, it's going to say 83.1%. So just to be clear, that update includes the 8,800 doses that we'll be receiving tomorrow and the next day. The retail pharmacy program that I've mentioned in the past, in this county, we have 33 participating pharmacies. 13 are currently receiving vaccine as part of this, which means they're receiving vaccine from a federal allocation and not from the county. Total delivered to date has been 11,010 doses that have been received by these 13 pharmacies. And I can't tell you what percent of that vaccine has been used because I'm not privy to that information at this point. The Arizona Department of Health Services doesn't have it to offer to us. But the other important fact there is that those vaccine numbers are not included in our county report. So what you see on the dashboard is not, those 11,010 doses are not reflected in that dashboard. So we have, in addition to the 56,500 Moderna doses that we have or will receive effective this week, and 1,700 doses of J&J, 11,010 doses have also been received in the county. So,
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Denise, so when does that 11,010 vaccinations get incorporated into our numbers, if ever?
I don't know the answer to that question. ADHS has not indicated when or if it will be included in our dashboard numbers.
So if we were to compare ourselves to other counties, then that a similar, their federal vaccine is not being incorporated into their numbers either?
That's correct. Right. It's
so
across the board.
It would be a fair comparison county to county, but if you're looking at our population of our county versus the number that's vaccinated, that would give you an unrealistic number.
Maybe a not complete number, yes.
Incomplete number.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly. What we have, and this is also on the ADHS dashboard, for the 65 plus population that we're focusing on, 36% of those individuals have received at least one vaccination. And what our strategy here is that when we approach that 50% level, or we see a reduction in demand, is that we'll transition and open up to another phase. That's been our goal, is try to get that 50% level receiving at least an initial dose, and then open it up to an additional category. We do realize that these federal retail programs also this new mask is killing me. Okay, you're at least my distance. It is. So the federal retail program does not require the entities, the providers, to follow county guidance. They are required to follow state guidance. So what you're seeing is that the Walgreens and CVS and some Safeways and some others are vaccinating the 55 plus and some other categories there. And that will continue until we open and expand our services and our phase to that 55 plus. I know that can seem a little bit confusing to the public. I understand that. We also receive, of course, probably an equal number of requests for us to open up to 55 plus as we do frustration from our 65 plus over actually getting an appointment still. And that's why we stay with the 65 plus. The fact that these federal retail programs are actually offering vaccine to 55 plus, that's fine. They can serve that group while we continue to focus on a 65 plus group until we get closer to that 50% range, which we should approach towards the end of this month, and then we'll move on. As you know, the federal government has indicated that they would like vaccines open to all age groups, all 18 and over, or 16 and over for the Pfizer, by May 1st. So I believe at that point, we'll be moving in that direction anyway. So it might just move us along a little bit faster. But it's important that we really work on this 65 plus group because there's our greatest risk. And as long as the demand is high for those vaccines, we'd like to make sure that we stay in that range. Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Denise, it was Johnson & Johnson was down to 16?
No, Johnson & Johnson is 18.
What was
the Pfizer vaccine is 16 and older.
Okay.
The other two are 18 and older.
Did they test it on 16-year-olds?
The Johnson & Johnson? Or,
No,
I'm sorry, the Pfizer?
The Pfizer?
The Pfizer, yes, right? I'm assuming that was part of their research, and that's how they received approval through the FDA for this emergency use.
So if we get to that point, will you then have to require parental permission to vaccinate those minors?
Absolutely. Yes. In every case, you would have to have a parent consent to that vaccination.
Supervisor Angus.
I don't know if you were aware, but we did have that Johnson & Johnson allocation,
Mhm.
and we had 300 to 400 in Bullhead City. And I don't know if you were aware, but Embry was taking a test first, a COVID test, before they got the shot. So it was a little disconcerting. I mean, they're still kind of doing research or testing. They told my friend who got it that they wanted to see if you got the vaccine while it was active, if it was something. So were you aware that they're doing testing on our citizens?
Well, I didn't know that it was a test per se or part of a research project. I did understand late last week, did hear that they were testing people prior to, and I didn't know also if it was a requirement.
Yeah, it was a requirement.
Before they
were
could be
not,
vaccinated.
That you didn't have a choice. Unless you went at 5 o'clock when the guy doing the test went home.
So we will follow up on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't have anything against it. I just thought it was interesting that that was happening without people knowing it was going to happen. So, an in and out test took like 2 hours.
We'll follow up. Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Angus, will you yield for a question?
I will yield.
Thank you. Were they completing the testing on the spot?
Yes.
Interesting.
Oh, wait. I'm not sure about that. So we went through one line, and if anyone texts me if I'm saying something wrong, they went through one line and got the swab, which was surprising to my friends. Like, I thought I'm getting a shot, but he had to get a swab. And then he had to go back and sit, and then he had to go back on the line. So it was a 2-hour process altogether. And usually, Embry does a great job on getting this out. And they still did a great job. I'm not bad-mouthing them. I just thought it was interesting that we weren't aware of that.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. We had an event in Littlefield on Saturday. We had allocated 300 doses for this event and used approximately 70. The experience from this event will be used to inform future decisions associated with scheduling events in rural communities. It may be more prudent for us to wait until we expand the eligible population before scheduling activities in these smaller communities. I mean, they're small initially, and then when we have smaller phases open, that reduces that population even more so. So we want to make a good use of our resources, time, and staffing. And so as we move forward, we'll be looking at strategically how do we address the concerns and needs of these rural communities while utilizing our resources properly. Mojave County Department of Public Health and Safeway are collaborating to host an event, a first dose event, at Fire Station number 2 from 8 to 4 in Lake Havasu City on Wednesday of this week. We'll be looking at a second event for 4 weeks out from that. And we hope to have 500 doses used on that particular day. We'll have 500 appointments set out for those particular vaccines.
I believe we checked the site this morning. There was only like 3 time slots left.
Ah, very good. Very good. So thank you for mentioning that. I hadn't checked that. If a person is interested in scheduling one of those last 3, they can certainly visit our webpage. We always put the link to that particular event on our page so that we can ensure that the public has access to it and doesn't have to go searching for it. Or they can certainly call our call center. And either way, we'll assist them in trying to find an appointment.
Supervisor Gould.
To that point, that was the world's longest link.
Yes.
It had to be like 47 characters.
Yeah.
And we might want to figure out with our tech guys how we can do, I think it's Bitly or something. Because I'm on the radio telling people that this event's here, and I look at that link, and there's no way I'm going to read that link off and have them get it correct.
Yes.
So if we could get it down to like six characters, it would be outstanding. Thank you.
Well, the Safeway group are the ones that set aside those appointments, and they create the links. So we'll see what we can do in the future. All right, that's what I had for the update. Are there any? Yes.
Supervisor Angus.
I have a couple of questions. First, it's been asked me, now, we talked about the library, but is the county 100% open now? I mean, are we still letting people work from home? I mean, is it up to the departments? Do we have an overall policy on that? Now that we have the library doing it?
Mr. Chairman, board members, Supervisor Angus, yes, we are open to business. The board back a while back, I can't remember the exact date, removed all the constraints, mandates for masks and such. Last week on Tuesday at the business planning meeting, when I meet with the department head, I shared with them the fact that the numbers are low now, positive cases, and asked them to removed basically the discretion that had been provided to them to make arrangement and work from home, and asked them to bring everybody back. We did not really have many left anyway, only few smaller departments that had fewer people. We were just concerned that it would have an impact, but yes.
And what is our policy if a department has a positive case? Is we still telling employees to go home for 14 days and paying 14 days?
Supervisor Angus, our policy with positive cases is to quarantine. We're following the guidelines of the CDC.
Is it
It's no
14
longer
days
14.
now?
I think it's 10.
I think it's 3.
It's less, actually.
What is it now?
I believe it's 10 days. You can actually reduce that time based on some testing protocols. If after 5 days you test and you get a negative test.
Are we doing that for the county?
We've included that language in our pandemic annex, so all staff are aware, all county employees are aware that they're eligible to go through that process.
And additionally, Supervisor Angus, just about every department had that experiences or is notified of that, coordinates with both Denise and Byron. So we've been really consistent throughout all the departments. But we're continuing to be proactive, asking people to social distance and be careful. And if we do get a positive case, we're insisting on employees that are not feeling well to not come to work, stay home, get tested, make sure you're healthy before you show up to work, because we want
But they have to get tested. They just can't go home for 10 days. They have to get tested.
Yes, Supervisor. And if they get tested and it's negative within the protocol that Denise just offered, we do not expect them to be home for 10 days. We do not want them to be home for 10 days. We only want them to be home long enough to ensure that they're healthy and then come back to work.
Okay. And something, on another topic, do we still do contact tracing?
Absolutely, yes.
Why?
Well, we still continue all of our investigations of positive cases.
But what do you do with that information? It's been a year. So what does all that information do? And how many full-time employees do we have dedicated to that? Where does the information go? And I got to be honest, I mean, this whole year people have told me they've never got a call from the county, and when all the numbers spiked, how did you decide, which ones to call? And again, where did that information go?
So that information is confidential. It stays within the public health department. And it's reported within the MedSys system.
And what do you do with it, though? What's it for?
Well, it can certainly be used for statistical purposes, but we do the initial investigation of the actual case. That investigation will elicit a list of individuals and contacts that they've been in close contact with. They identify. I mean, we don't, they're not forced to do that.
But you call those people
Yes.
that they've been in contact with?
Yes. So it's close contacts for that 15 minutes. They provide us with a list, and then we make every attempt to follow up with those individuals. And then we provide them with the quarantine guidance moving forward. In the case of the spikes that you had mentioned, ADHS had hired 600 investigators to assist with this effort, because there's no way when cases were over 1,000 that we could ever follow up with all of those cases. So many of those cases were assigned to ADHS, and we only accepted the cases where we felt like we could justifiably follow up with those
Are you
individuals.
mandated by the state to do this?
To do investigations?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How many full-time employees do we have doing it?
That's a good question. I want to, well, I'm not going to hazard a guess. I'm sorry.
Because I remember early on,
using
when
some
we
of our grant funds to pay
didn't
for
know
those
what was
individuals.
coming. You know, we helped along, but now a year later, you know, I think we need to have the discussion. Is it really necessary? What has a whole year of information gotten us? I've never been told by somebody that they got a call from the county telling them that they've been exposed. Has anybody? I don't know. Maybe they have, but I haven't heard it. I just, again, it's a government program, but is it successful?
Well, I think we've reached a number of people, and I can try to get some statistics for you for that. Okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes,
And just
I understand.
last, I do have a follow-up that there was one line for the Johnson & Johnson shot. They got swabbed. They got their shot. They had to, go and wait like you have to do after you get a shot, and then they got their result about whether they were positive or negative the next day. Thank you.
Certainly.
Director Burley, what about the senior center? Everybody's saying everything's open. Senior center's open now?
The senior center is still operating under the limited occupancy and the drive-through services. And if you can hold on for just 1 second. Hang on, I have some information about that as well. This one, I think I'm organized. Okay, so there are several categories of risk that have been identified, and WACOG is currently recommending that counties follow the CDC guidelines for restaurants and bar operations, and using that as guidance for how we provide services through our senior programs. So right now, we are in we're in the substantial category for businesses still. And as a result, we're following the lowest risk process, which is food services limited to drive-through, delivery, and takeout, and curbside pickup. So those are our current level of services, and it's based on recommendations made by WACOG, our funder, and also they're following CDC guidance and using the business standards for that.
Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Janice, if we move down into the next lower category, then we can go to meals on site.
So the next is more risk, and that's drive-through, delivery, takeout, curbside pickup, emphasized, on-site dining limited to outdoor seating, seating capacity reduced to allow tables to be spaced at least 6 feet apart.
So they could go to having the meals outdoors.
If we moved into the more risk, the second category, yes.
Downward in there.
That's correct.
To a lower risk category.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Because those folks, a lot of those folks on the Meals on Wheels are not getting to see anybody. I think that might be more damaging than the risk, to tell you the truth.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a balance, right? I think there's been no argument all along that we're trying to balance people's personal and social needs with the risk of the virus itself. And unfortunately, what we know is the risk is much greater for those 65 and older populations. So we're sort of running that line there, balancing the needs on both sides. Yes.
Sure.
That it?
Yep.
Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Denise, how are we doing on flu cases?
Our flu rates, as I understand them, are still very, very low. I did hear Mr. McClure's question, and we'll work on getting something together that I can bring back to the board to present on flu.
Thank
you. Certainly.
Nothing further. We are adjourned.